Hi, and welcome to the last of the presidential hustings, and probably the most important one after the welfare and equal opportunities one, of course. I've got Hannah and Emily here who are hoping to be your next person. Well, one of them will become one of your president for um, Student Association president, yes. And we've got, as usual, we've got loads of questions here, and hopefully you can get more questions coming in. We've got loads of questions actually as I'm sending today, so I'm really, really happy. So I don't have to talk a lot. As we've done with the other candidate, we'll be doing with Hannah and Emma as well. Emma? Sorry. Hannah and Emily. I've only known Emily for 2 days. So Hannah and Emily, we'll be giving them 2 minutes to tell us why they're running and where they see the organization by the time they stand down. I don't know who wants to start first, the dinosaur or the newbie. So who wants to go first?
That's
Sorry. I'm just in the sense that she's been here for
Hannah.
she's been she was here last year. I'm going to take this really serious. Hannah,
Do you want me to go? I'll
go first. Hold on. I'll time you.
You just let me know.
Yes,
Let me know.
Hannah, your time starts now.
Hi there. Well, in case any of you don't yet know me, I'm Hannah Smith and I am running to be your student president this year. As you've hopefully seen from the manifesto, I've done quite a lot in AUSA over the past 3-4 years since I've been at uni. I'm a current fourth year student in education and politics, so this is kind of quite up my street. But if I am elected, I will actually be giving up my induction year in teaching to do this, which obviously is quite a big gamble, but what's life without a few risks? At the moment, one of the main priorities I think that AUSA really needs to do is strive to communicate the things that we do really well. So in AUSA, we have some brilliant practices. We've got Nightline, we've got the Student Advice Centre, we've got the Accommodation Marketplace, and I know that this year's team have been doing a lot on housing co-ops as well. And we really need to push this, as well as what the university does in terms of the Hardship Fund, Discretionary Fund, and of course back again to AUSA and our Liberation Forums, which have really been doing brilliantly this year, under Bright of course. We really need to build on this and increase it, and that's part of the reason I also want to increase a technology workshop. These things can be really costly if they go wrong, and yes, it needs to be looked into in great detail what we can do, but that's something I think we should be able to add under our belt. The year ahead is going to provide a lot of changes, both with AUSA and the Students' Association moving out of this building and getting our new union built. Obviously, student input is paramount in this, whether you just want a bar, a club, a shop, or maybe you want somewhere where you can go nap when you've done your 24-hour stint of that really long essay you hated, and you can finally have a 20-minute kip before your next class. In terms of sports and societies, we need to ensure during this time that there's plenty of room space provided so that nobody's going to miss out on any of their activities during this time. You know, the last thing you want is, oh, we're getting a new building, but you're gonna have to stop that. No, I don't want any of that to happen. The other thing I want to increase is general communication from the Students' Association and the elected officers. I think we should be working with our activities such as the Gaudi to do regular shout-outs and regular president updates. I think we should have office hours set.
Thanks, Hannah. Thank you. You have more time to explain yourself later. So Emily, I'll turn it to you. 2 minutes now.
Perfect. Yeah, hi everybody. My name's Emily and I'm also running for student president, obviously. Like Hannah, I have quite a lot of experience in the Students' Association. I'm currently a sabbatical officer. I'm the president for charities and community at the moment. So I've achieved quite a lot this year. And the reason I'm running is because I want to continue that and continue the projects that I've been doing. So you might know me from the bungee jump on campus during Rag Week. It was our biggest Rag Week yet. So those are a couple of things I've been doing. Also a lot of work on student parents and care leavers, and these are things that are featuring heavily in my manifesto and the things that I really want to push and continue. My 3 main points are around access, equality and the union, similarly to Hannah, so I won't go on about that too much. Obviously the new building is really exciting for everybody, and I don't think that could be a point that either of us miss if we come into office, or when we come into office. Yeah, so access, there's really a lot of things that the university doesn't do very well around access. Access is all about making sure that education is an option for everybody, no matter what your circumstances or your background, your financial circumstance. None of that should matter. Education is for everybody. It's a right. So some of the areas that I focus on are around care leavers. Care leavers, only 1% of care leavers actually attend university, compared with 36% of normal school leavers. So it's really, we need to support those. And as a student association, one of the ideas I have is giving extracurricular grants to care leavers so that they can really enjoy the university experience and they don't have to just study, that they can really be involved in our sports clubs and societies because they're so amazing. Also, I want to do a lot of work on equality issues, so a lot of women in leadership. That's an area I'm really passionate about. I mean, I wanted to run for this job because I love it and I really enjoy what I do. But what pushed me was because someone told me I would be good enough, because otherwise I didn't think I would be. I think that's the case for a lot of women, and I think we have some amazing leaders on campus.
Thanks. The London thing is ringing. So now what we've got now is that I'll ask a question, and you've got 20 seconds each to reply. It's okay. So I'll stay with you, Emily.
Sure.
We've got one from Liam. It's not a One Direction one. I'll ask the One Direction one later. But it says student engagement with the student association is an issue. How would you solve it? 20 seconds, Emily.
I think it's all about letting students know what we're doing and shouting about our wins. I think there's always a lot of negativity downplayed here because we think we're not doing well enough. Actually, we do some really amazing things, and I think when students know about those things, they want to get on board, and then they want to put across ideas of their own, and they want to lead those forward, and we have to make that obvious that we are here as facilitators for whatever students want to do.
Okay, what about you, Hannah?
Well, I would probably agree with Emily there. Yeah, we do some amazing things here, like I've already mentioned, and we really need to promote those. Along with that, in terms of student engagement, it is you quite often come in Alfie's or Boot Chat and you see a lot of the same faces. So I think we really need to reach out to students, go out on campus. We need to be based in the buildings that they're learning in and not harass them. I'm not suggesting that, but we need to be there.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go to some of the questions that's already been sent in or have been written. We'll start from some of the easiest ones first. We'll still with Hannah. It says that the role of president is often seen as a key to making the officer team work. What will you contribute to the team's strengths next year?
I think what I'd bring to the team is obviously I've got quite a bit of experience on the kind of educational side sitting on the Senate, and I like to think I'm very organised as well. So sometimes it borders on OCD, but I would know where we're going and communicate it well to everyone so that everyone feels on an equal par.
Okay, is it okay?
Yeah.
Okay. What about you, Emily?
Yeah, I think this year the officer team has worked really, really well, and I would definitely be keen to push that same thing again. I mean, something that definitely got us all on board with each other is the fun side of things, and making sure that on a personal level we all really get on, so that in work that we're able to function really well as a team. We all work really well, there's 7 of us, and that makes sure that all areas are covered and that all remits are catered for.
Okay. And we'll stay with you. The second question is, the student president is often the most visible officer within the university during negotiation. What 3 attributes or skills do you think are most important for the president to have or develop now?
Yeah, obviously you have to have really good lobbying skills and be also assertive enough to tell the university when they're not doing enough for students. And I think that's something that Megan's done really well this year, and that I've definitely been learning from her, and taking that assertive stance and not being afraid to tell the university when they need to change things.
Okay.
Hold on, do I need 2 more things?
No, your time is over, so you have time later.
Okay.
Hannah, what about you?
I think you've got to be a really good communicator and make things simple. Some of the documents that the university produce are, it really takes a lot of time to understand. So you need to be a really good communicator. You need to be very organised and know what you're doing. And I would probably agree with the assertiveness for Emily as well. You've just got to be prepared to go in there and give it what you've got and say, no, this is what students want.
Okay. How do we be assertive without being bullied or without threatening a relationship with the university? Yes, please.
I think it's about building relationships with the university as well. So we're not going to go in and say, this is what we want, this is how we're going to do it. It's a 2-way communication. So you need to say, this is what students want. What do you think? How can we do this that's viable and it's not going to harm anyone in the process? So it's a 2-way thing. Okay,
what about you, Emily?
I'm not sure that's... I don't think coming across as a bully is sometimes a bad thing. We're here to fight for students, and if the university are failing them, then we have to stand up for that, and we have to be prepared to stand our ground and tell them when they're not doing it right, and if we have a better idea, to put that forward.
Okay, thanks. Now I'll stay with you, Emily. How will you organise Aberdeen students around the independence referendum in September?
Okay, well that's quite tricky to do when students come back. Obviously, Freshers Week starts at the very start of September, and then the vote's just a couple of weeks away. So I think it's really getting students involved now. I'm working on the mock independence referendum that's already been started, and setting up some theme talks so that students are really engaged with the issues and that they're issues that are relevant to students.
Okay, what about you, Hannah?
I think it's about information, so we need to make sure, as Emma says, we start now, because it's not just going to happen all of a sudden in September, but coming into the new term we should be prepared, ready to go and say to students, here are both sides. We're not taking a stance. I don't believe in that. Here are both sides. Make sure you vote. Ensure that students are registered to vote, which I know they've started work on as well already.
Okay. We'll stay with you, Hannah. What do you see as the next big issue affecting students in higher education in Scotland?
Sorry, the next
big issue, yeah.
The next big issue in education, I think personally a lot of it will lie on what happens in September with the independence referendum. I know the Scottish Government would love to do, more in the lines of tuition fees, making it kind of more accessible, but I think we need to wait and see what happens there, because there's a lot of ongoing issues at the moment.
Okay. And what about you, Emily?
Forget my name every time.
So no, I'm trying to reset the time.
I agree with
Okay.
Hannah, definitely. The independence is a really exciting time. The referendum is a really exciting time, and it's the great potential for us to kind of get what we want, use it as kind of a levering tool for whatever happens in independence, and to really push for what we want. I do think, aside from that, some of the issues on my manifesto around access, we really need to push so that everybody in Scotland can go to university if they want.
Okay, we've got a question from some guy called Rob Henton. It says that the student president is a position of political leadership. What thing on your manifesto AUSA tweets next political priorities, Emily?
Well, again, I would say that it's access. I think access is a really big thing. It was our priority campaign 2 years ago. Well, not this year, last year. And I think it should be again. I think we really need to push on that and make sure that it encompasses international students, student parents, care leavers, all these kind of groups, liberation groups that are often kind of left by the sidelines.
Okay, what about you, Hannah?
What I've got in my manifesto is we've got quite a lot on it to do with funding and support, and increasing that, making it easier to access for all students, whichever group you come from, and also along with that, communication and transparency from AUSA and from the university as well, so you know what's happening and going on.
Okay. Here we go. So we've got Liam again. It says, what are the priorities for students in Aberdeen?
Priorities at the moment, I know there's a lot. I've had a lot of students talking to me about housing and how it's really expensive, so hopefully the housing co-op, when we really get it up and running, will be a brilliant thing. There's obviously a lot, as you've talked about, the access up here due to the wealth that's up here at the moment as well that's going on. And I think as well, this new union, we need to make it better. We do some great things, but we really need to push and get as much of that out of it as we can.
Okay, Emily?
Yeah, I think it's really giving students a voice and making sure that they have the influence that they want. With our new strategic plan that was just approved at AGM, influence was something that students really pushed on, that they really wanted to have more of, whether that was in their class or on a national level. And I think that's what we really need to push for and provide.
Okay, great. So, here we go to the general questions. Stay with you, Emily. It says, which other officer role do you see yourself doing the most joint work with in the year ahead?
I think that's kind of defunct for this team. I think that we shouldn't be working most with one person in particular. I think we should be working with everybody, because all remits kind of end up meshing together, and campaigns can't be run by just one person. And I think we need to work with everybody. I like a good team.
Okay. What about you, Hannah?
I think I'd completely agree with Emily, particularly though from the student president point of view, because it's such an all-encompassing role. We do go to they do, whoever it is gets it, go to university meetings for education, but you have to worry about welfare and sports and societies as well. I think we should be working collegiately, definitely.
Okay. Hannah, what will your first action in office be?
My first action would be to try and work out ways in which we can engage and communicate with the general student body more. It's not an easy task. You're always going to get people who maybe don't know what we do or how to get involved. But I think for me, that would be something that I really want to work on and really strive to say, look, guys, we're here. Come visit us. We'll come visit you, so that we can promote what we do.
Okay, what about you, Emily?
Practically, it's probably Freshers Week, but ideologically speaking, I think it's really working to make sure that the strategic plan is practical and that we have a lot of student buy-in, and that this is really where we want to take the organisation over the next couple of years and really lead that change.
Okay. We've got billions of questions from David Morrow. So I will try and get many in. Actually, no, now that I think about it, it's actually one question, but he's retweeted himself 1,000 times. Well
Does he
done,
just
David.
want a hello?
Yes,
Hi, David.
So we'll stay with Emily.
Nice
It says, yes. Do you feel that pledging on campaign for free education for students is a policy that is playing to the masses and not realistic?
No, I think it should always be a goal. I mean, yeah, maybe it won't happen while I'm in office, in 9 months, but starting that process moving or continuing the process moving really is key. And yeah, it's popular because people want it and people want it to happen. So why not start now?
Okay, what about you, Hannah?
Yeah, I think tuition fees is always going to be an ongoing battle because
Yeah.
there's always the governments are always doing something that someone's not going to be happy with, and I think what we have to just argue for and, like you're saying, work for is the best outcome for our students. And if that means that we need to go and speak to people and say, look, this isn't working, this is what we need, this is what it's meant on our students in our university, then yes, we should stand up for that.
Okay. Okay, so I've got some controversial ones here. We'll stay with Hannah.
Controversial.
Yeah, it sounds really interesting. Yeah. The Student Association is not the lecturers' union. Do you think it's acceptable for AUSA to be spamming us with emails telling us not to go to lectures, especially when international students are paying over 10 grand to be here?
Okay, I think that's obviously a fair point if this person feels that they're getting loads of emails and things, but it was a policy that was taken to the Student Council. Maybe there needs to be things there in transparency with the Student Council. Maybe we need to look at reforming the Student Council, if we feel it's not representative enough of the student body. But I can understand that students' views if they're getting conflicting messages from the uni and from us as well.
Okay.
Am I answering that too?
Yes, Emily.
Okay, yeah, I think that's obviously talking about the lecturers' strikes this year. And most students that we'd spoken to, maybe at the start didn't understand why that was an issue, but once you explain it, and actually that it's about making sure that the lecturers that we have and the teaching staff that we have are the best, and you can't expect the best to be in Aberdeen or anywhere. If the pay's not good and if it's not livable for them, that's just not fair. So I think once students maybe understand that, and understand that having this action would push the university to make change there, I think that they actually would understand and maybe not hate the email so much.
Okay. I'll give you extra seconds because Emily overrun. But we'll stick with you, Emily. But we'll
Stop me there.
we'll stick with you, Emily. How do we get those who communication? It keeps coming up. I think all this.
Yep.
Everyone that has been here
Yeah.
loved that word, communication. How do we get to the stage where people running will stop seeing communication as AUSA's greatest flaw?
I don't think it is AUSA's greatest flaw. That sounds like a really,
Music?
I don't know, Greek ideology thing. I don't know. What's that thing called? Hubris.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe that's something that students, are really focused on. I don't think it's our biggest flaw. I think it's something that we can always work on. And because marketing and communication has changed so much in recent years, with social media and things like that, that we're just finding our feet. And that maybe students are as well in how they communicate with us, and they want to tell us better how they would prefer that communication to be.
Okay. Hannah, what about you?
I think it's obviously something that, as Emily says, we're always going to have to work on. There's always improvements that can be made. I don't think that you're ever going to have something that's perfect, but I think that there are strategies that we can take to kind of say, look, we're here, this is what we offer. I've had friends of mine filling out national student surveys going, Hannah, what does Students Association do? And you go, right, where do I start? So we do need to reach out.
Okay, it's okay. You can take
I've
extra
still
seconds.
got extra seconds.
Yeah,
Okay.
because Emily.
I think it's just
talking.
something that we always
Yeah.
need to work on. We always need to find new strategies, use new social networks, use new media to the best of our advantage.
Okay. What about Alfie's finance? We know what happened at AGM, and people thinking that Alfie's was sinking. So how are we saving Alfie's? What have you done any plans
That's
to
your
save?
question.
Yes. Well, the question is, what about Alfie's finance? I'm going to elaborate on it.
Okay.
Yeah. So how can we save Alfie's?
I think Alfie's is something that it's started great. I mean, I love sitting downstairs and having a coffee, but I know obviously that a lot of people don't, or it's maybe not their cup of tea, for lack of a better word. But with the new building, I think what we need to look at when this comes round is what food do students want? What access do they want to drinks, to water fountains, to things like that? And really listen to the students, if you want hot food or cold food or drinks.
Okay. What about you, Emily?
Yeah, I agree with Hannah. I think it's a matter of asking students what they want. I mean, I know there's a lot of people who then have dietary requirements that Alfie's maybe doesn't cater for in the best of abilities. So maybe it's just having a different kind of food there, or maybe it's completely reimagining that as something more like a corner shop or like a sandwich bar, or I know people were talking about burrito bars and cool things like that. So it depends.
Okay. So we've got another question. It says, why do you think only 2 people have come forth and put their name down for this position this year? when in previous years, this position has been one of the most contested one of the entire election season. And I'm going to add my bet. Why is it that in general, there are not many people running as in previous years?
I think we've moved the elections forward. Obviously, previously they were after Easter, and to keep in line with the sector, we moved them before. Perhaps this has thrown people off a little bit. Perhaps people weren't prepared. This maybe is then a communication thing that we, maybe as sabbaticals, didn't push enough. I know I personally tried to line up people for my role. Maybe people were scared off by me and Hannah? I don't know. No, probably not.
Okay, what about you, Hannah?
I think obviously it is a question that needs to be asked, and I do think it's a shame this year that the positions aren't as heavily contested, but I think that the people that are going for them, everyone seems so dedicated to the roles and determined. I think it's something that all at AUSA can do is look forward and say, right, how are we going to change it next year? How can we really encourage people and say, look guys, give it a go, because you just don't know.
Okay, what is AUSA's strength?
I think one of AUSA's big strengths is the sports and societies that we have here. I know personally, and I know from friends and speaking to students, if they hadn't have joined one of these groups, they wouldn't have made the friends that they have now and got involved in the activities that they have. So I think that's something that we do really well, is we bring together groups of students that we'd never have met otherwise, and we should be harnessing that.
Okay, what about you, Emily?
Yeah, I think it's our volunteers, honestly, whether they're in society, sports clubs, or they're volunteering because they want to volunteer, for example, like Bookends or Nightline. I think they're the organisation's biggest strengths. They carry us forward, and without their ideas, contributions, hard work, the organisation wouldn't exist.
Okay. You are the current president for charities.
Yes.
What challenges have you faced that has prepared you for this role?
Whew. There's been a lot of challenges. I think definitely chairing a committee of really motivated volunteers and trying to push and kind of overcome setbacks, I suppose, in events organising. Events organising is very different from campaign running, and it often has setbacks. So I think that's maybe one of the most difficult things. But
okay, yeah. And you are the current chair of council.
Mm-hmm.
So so what are the setbacks or what negative have you received that have prepared you enough for next year?
I think it's been really challenging because you're working with so many different groups of people. You learn really quickly to listen to different points of view and put that across diplomatically. Because some of the anonymous questions you get, you go, can we maybe work on rewording this? And I think as well, getting people to come to council and realise how productive it really can be, and encouraging that to continue forward.
Okay. Hannah, give me 3 words to sum you up.
For me,
yes.
me personally,
yes.
Realistic, experienced and determined.
Thank you. What about you, Emily?
Passionate, I don't want to say experienced as well. I'm kind of tempted to say I'm the best. I don't know, I've been wondering all week why no one said that, but yeah, we'll go with that.
3 words. So passionate?
That's
okay,
fine.
Great. Okay, I've got a last question from
that.
Liam here. It says that, more importantly, who is your favourite One Directioner?
Oh, is this where I get out my 1D water bottle?
Okay.
Harry Styles.
What about you?
Without a doubt.
I'll go with Harry as well.
Okay,
I do know their names, but he's the one that's always in the news.
Okay, I'll say my favourite will be Ron, because Ron is in the election. So in case you don't like any of them, you can reopen nomination on them as well. The election starts next week. So Tuesday, you're going to, apologies to the first years, you're going to be disturbed a lot, and you're going to love it. Good luck. You've got the manifestos online now, thank God for AUSA. So you can actually read it. It was only 24 hours late. So you can actually read it, and you can ask them any questions you have. Tweet them, they'll reply. You want Hannah Smile?
At @smile_Hannah.
And you?
And at Emily Beaver.
Okay, great. Just ask them any questions and they'll reply. Thank you very much, and good luck, and hope the best candidates win. And I'm happy that we'll have a woman president. Yeah, liberation for the win.